This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so thank you for carrying on in my absence, Judy and others. So thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. So it's interesting. The Gemara class that I have in the morning, we started to learn a tractate called Zvachim, which deals with all of the sacrifices and how they are done and all the focus and intent. So one of the guys said, Rabbi, if you don't mind my asking, right, what does this have to do with us today? And I said, funny you should ask that because we're just starting Parsha Vayikra now, the whole book of Vayikra, which deals essentially with sacrifices, right? Well, it deals with all aspects of Kedusha, of holiness, but certainly beginning, it's focusing on the karbanot, on the sacrifices. So the same question could be asked, right? What does that have to do with us? So what would you say about that, my friends?
When you study the korbanos, it's as if you're doing them yourself.
Okay, beautiful. So Judy pointed out there is a teaching that when we can't offer the actual sacrifices, nevertheless, when we study them and we speak about them and we read about them, then it's considered as if we did offer those sacrifices. Beautiful, beautiful. And I added, anyone else? So I added a few thoughts. And the Chafetz Chaim, who was one of the greatest of our sages, passed away in the early 1930s, and all the compendium that we have of the laws of lashon hara, of proper speech, right, came from the Chafetz Chaim. That's how he got the nickname the Chafetz Chaim, based on the pasuk Mia Isha Chafetz Chaim, who's a person who wants life. Guard your tongue, guard your lips from deceit, from malice, right? And he wrote the Mishnah Brura, which is what we used till today on a daily basis after davening. When I learn a halacha, I'm using the Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, and the Mishnah Brura's comments on that. So he would lambast many of the students that you say you want Mashiach and you include that in your Amidah, right? But you don't know how to do the Karbanot. So Mashiach's going to come, the Beit HaMikdash will be rebuilt, and you're not going to know what to do. So how is that showing Hashem that we really want it if we're not making the necessary preparations for it? And therefore he had a kollel, he would teach the laws of Kodshim, the laws of sacrifices, how to deal with the Beit HaMikdash. He would teach that to Kohanim and to non-Kohanim also, because if you're not a Kohen, you could still give guidance and instruction and answer questions of those who will be doing the Avodah. So we have Judy's point that in the interim, our study of it and our saying it is tantamount to our actually offering it. Good morning, Kathy. And we also have the idea that we hope it will be reinstated, and our Musaf Shmona Esrei, every time that we say Musaf, be it Shabbos or Yom Tov, Rosh Chodesh, we speak about the avoda being returned and the bracha of Ritzei, which is one of the three last blessings, right? V'hashevet avoda, bring back the service, Lidvir Beitecha, V'ishei Yisroel, the fires of Israel, Utfilatam, and our tfilot, Bi'avat Tekabel B'ratzon, right? To accept them with love and willingness. So we hope it will be reinstated. Though I always do point out that I think most of us struggle with the spirituality of animal sacrifice, and it doesn't strike us as being particularly uplifting and spiritual. At the same time, So with the reinstating of that, there will need to be almost a reawakening of our appreciation. We'll have to have a different mindset. We'll have to understand and sense the spirituality. There are those that do say of serious rabbinic qualifications. There are those that do say, I believe Rav Kook had said this, that the reinstatement of the avoda will not be animal and bird sacrifice, but it will be what's called the karban mincha, which is flour, oil, the meal offering. And actually, the very last line that we say in the Amidah is Sheibana Beit HaMikdash, V'tein Chalkeinu, or the Beit HaMikdash will be rebuilt, give us our chelik in Torah, V'sham Na'avadcha, there we will serve you, V'yira, with awe, Kimei Olam, V'arva LaHashem, and may it be sweet to Hashem, to God, Minchat, the offerings of Yehuda, of Yerushalayim, of Judah and Jerusalem, Kimei Olam, as it was in days of old, Cheshanim Kamaniot, in the years past. So we speak about the Minchat Yehuda, which translated as the offerings. But mincha actually means that karban mincha. It means that meal flour offering. So they find a source there that what will be restored will be the meal flour offering. However, most understand it that we, as we say in Musaf, that will actually be a restoration of the actual karbanot. So therefore, we do need to study this. This is in our hopefully near, if not immediate future. And also another factor is, and that we'll focus on today, there are many, many lessons in our own avoda, in our own service of Hashem, that we draw from these karbanot, from these sacrifices. So it really is something that is very, very relevant to us on an almost daily basis. So let's take a look. Let's begin on page 544, Sefer Vayikra, Perek Aleph, Pasuk Aleph, Vayikra El Moshe, and he called to Moshe, Vaydaber Hashem Elav, and God spoke to him, Me Ohel Moed Lemor. So the book of Shemot just concluded with, on page 540, with the cloud and God's presence filling the Mishkan, filling the tabernacle, right? And that was the conclusion of the book of Shemot, which is the book of exile and redemption. The redemption that we reach is God's presence filling there. And now we have the book of Vayikra, which is Hashem speaking to Moshe from Ohel Moed with all the instructions of Kedusha, of holiness, whether it is Kedushat HaMakom, which is the Kedusha of the place, of that Mishkan, and we'll deal with Kedushat HaZman, the holiness of time, and that will be Shabbat and the holidays, and also Kedushat HaAdam, the Kedusha of the human being, of who we are. Okay? So it's going to begin. Hashem now called to Moshe from that cloud that we heard about, the end of Shemot, and Hashem spoke to him from Ohel Moed Lemor, saying, Pasuk Bet, Daber al b'nei Yisroel, speak to the children of Israel, v'amartem, and say to them, Adam, ki yakriv mikem korban laHashem, when a man among you, a person amongst you, brings a sacrifice to Hashem, min ha-behema, min ha-bakar, min ha-tzom, from the cattle, flock, a person shall bring takrivu et korbanchem. Now it's interesting to note that we say Adam ki yakriv mikem korban laHashem. Adam. When we hear Adam, what do we think of? Right? Humankind, but we think of the very first person, Adam. So Rashi points out the same way that Adam, Rashi views it in a more halachic view, the same way that Adam didn't bring from anything that was stolen. He couldn't have stolen anything because there was no one to steal it from. So too, make sure, right, the end does not justify the means. So make sure you're not bringing from Gezel. Others, the Nefesh HaChaim point out, Adam ki yakriv mikem. Wow. Let's look at Adam. Adam sinned, and that changed the world. That changed the course of the world. And therefore recognize that you too are an Adam. You too are a person that your actions, positive and otherwise, have an effect on this world. Don't minimize who you are and what you can do and what you in fact do. Right? And there are so many stories that we hear of a person, right, who is on their way, chas v'shalom, to do the ultimate self-harm to oneself. And because someone smiled at them on their way, they felt this little glimpse of sunshine, of happiness, of good in the world, and they changed their course of direction because of that. And they didn't go ahead and do what they were planning to do. So Adam, each one of us has an incredible effect on the world, whether we see it or whether we don't see it, whether it's in a physical sense or in a spiritual sense. We are each an Adam, and therefore recognize that. Now, Adam ki yakim mikem korban Hashem. Now keep the place over here, but turn to page 554 for a moment. The very bottom, where chapter 4 begins, Perek Daled. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Daber el b'nei Yisroel lemor, nefesh ki techeta vishgaga. When a person, again, the English over here said when a man, here it says when a person will sin unintentionally, and he'll bring this sin offering to Hashem. Now, we have two terms that we're using here, Adam and Nefesh. The term Adam represents which part of us as a human being? The physical, right? We were called Adam because min ha'adama, we came from the earth. That's why we are called Adam. But we are a composite of an Adam, of Adama, of the physical, and the Nefesh, and a soul. There are different parts to the soul. Nefesh comes from, like we say on Shabbat, Vayi nafash, and it rested. The Nefesh is the part of the soul that resides within us. Other parts of the soul are too holy, and they hover above us, connecting us up all the way to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, up to the spiritual realm. But the Nefesh is there inside of us. So if we are this strange composite, and each one has its pulls, each one pulls us in a certain direction. Our physicality, our physical Adam pulls us towards the physical, towards the material, towards the sensual. That's what that pulls us. And the Nefesh, the spiritual, pulls us towards that which is lofty, that which is exalted. And we're constantly, hey Mark, hello. How you doing? Perfect, thanks. All right, and we're constantly in this state of flux, of being pulled in one direction, pulled in another direction. Now, with that in mind, so we would imagine when we sin, who is doing the sinning? What's pulling us towards the sinning? That is the Adam. And what's pulling us towards the spiritual? That is the Nefesh. Now, Vayikra begins with those sacrifices that a person brings as a free will offering to Hashem. Korban comes from the root Kuf Resh Vet, which means karov, which is a way of drawing close to Hashem. So if I were to tell you that we use one of these terms when we're talking about a free will offering that's brought as a way of drawing close to God, and we use the other term when it comes to a person who sinned and he's going to bring a sacrifice, so who would I say is bringing that free will, exalted, uplifted offering to Hashem? That is the nefesh. That's the soul. And who's the one that's sinning? That is the Adam. Yet, as I'm sure you imagine from where I was going with this, the pasuk says the exact opposite. We say Adam. Ki yakriv miken korban laHashem. When Adam is bringing from amongst you an offering to Hashem, this is the free will exalted offering. And on page 554, chapter 4, nefesh, a soul, ki techeteh, when it sins, bishgaga, because the mitzvah of Hashem that a person is not supposed to do, right, etc. So why would we use the term Adam, which is the earth, which is the physicality of humankind? Why would we use that when we're bringing this carbon ola, this ascent, exalted, uplifted offering? And why would we use the term nefesh, soul, when we're talking about sinning, doing an aveira? It seems to be backwards. What would you say, my friends?
Well, it seems like, the soul isn't just your most holy spiritual, it's also your thought process, your emotions. And so in your thoughts, you can certainly sin, and that's going to lead you astray. So it makes sense that that's kind of where it can originate from.
Okay.
Nefesh.
Okay. So a lot of it begins with our self, our thoughts, but that can still lead us somewhat off. Yes, Aaron.
It says im tichte b'shigaga, which is by mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So we would assume that Adam is predisposed to sin, whereas the nefesh is not, and somehow by mistake it follows our earthly side and does sin, and that's why.
Okay, good. Okay, so Aaron's pointing out that a korban, a sacrifice, only comes when it was bishgaga, when it was done inadvertently. It was done by when a person erred. I didn't know it wasn't allowed. I didn't realize that it was Shabbat today. I didn't know this is not allowed on Shabbat, whatever it might be, right? So it's only, a korban is only when it is bishgaga. So that certainly does soften a little bit that it's the nefesh. I hear that. So Rav Leib Chasman offers, I think, a very, very powerful insight over here. We are this combination. We are this combo. And we have these two strange bedfellows. But we have to keep in mind that we become this one entity. And therefore, when we go ahead and do something that we shouldn't be doing, it's not just the Adam, the physical self that's pushing us, but we drag our neshama along. We drag that spiritual self, that nefesh, we drag that with us into the mud, into the dirt, so to speak. Right? We can't just check it outside the door and then go, right? No, we're bringing that in with us. And at the same time, when we do something of value, what happens? Our Adam, our physical, our self becomes uplifted, becomes kadosh, right? As a result of that, right? We know every time when we make a bracha on a mitzvah, right? The bracha, right? Lahadlik ner shel Shabbat, lahaniach tefillin, whatever it is, we say the words Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvotav, that you have made us kadosh, that we become kadosh, we become sanctified through the mitzvot. The Chafetz Chaim, I mentioned earlier, the Chafetz Chaim says, if you could take the hide of a cow, the hide of a cow, and write on that the words of the Torah, that becomes kadosh, 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 that we keep it wrapped in the Aron Kodesh, holy, 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 and we lift it up, Zota Torah, and when it's being carried, we're all standing, and if heaven forbid it should fall, we all have to give tzedakah, we all have to fast. So if the hide of a cow, when it has words of Torah written on it, that it attains this high level of Kedusha, so a human being, when we put words of Torah onto ourselves, when we fulfill the mitzvot, the commandments of the Torah, you can only imagine the Kedusha, the holiness that a person attains. Famous story with the Bedichever, that a person once came to him. He was known as the Ohev Yisroel. He had a tremendous love for every person. He always saw the positive. Lots of great Bedichever stories. Person was smoking on Shabbos, right? So he says to him, you know that it's Shabbos today. He said, Rabbi, I know it's Shabbos. You know that smoking is not allowed on Shabbos. Rabbi, I know smoking is not allowed on Shabbos. You know that you're smoking. Rabbi, yes, I know that I'm smoking. And he turns to the heavens and says, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the universe, who is like your people? They are so honest. They are so honest. So he's always finding the positive. Famously, people came complaining to him, Rebbe, the wagon drivers, they're in their talis and their tefillin. Davening hasn't finished yet. They're in their talis and tefillin, and they're under their wagons, and they're greasing the axles. It's a disgrace. It's a shanda. It's terrible. And he says, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the universe, who are like your people? Even as they grease their axles, they're davening to you, right? It all depends. It all depends on the perspective. So where was I going with this? There was another story that these are the two lead-ups to that. Oh, thank you. The holy hide. So a person once came to him sort of mockingly. This person was a very, very, very wealthy person and not the least bit observant. And he said to him, Rabbi, right, it says in the Shema that if you keep the mitzvot, God will open up the heavens. If you don't keep the mitzvot, the heavens will be closed up. I don't keep the mitzvot. And look what an abundance the heavens has given to me. Right? So he was somewhat mocking the Shema. So the Rebbe says to him, that's what it says in the Shema? He said, yeah, that's what it says in the Shema. You know that's what it says in the Shema? Rabbi, we both know that's what it says in the Shema. You've read the Shema? Yes, I've read the Shema. Oh, if you've read the Shema once in your life, then all the wealth of this world doesn't compensate you for that Kedusha, for that holiness that you've once read the Shema in your lifetime. Right? So that's Asher Kiddishanu the mitzvotav, that we become holy as the result of the mitzvot. And therefore Adam, the physicality, the earthy part of a person, ki yakiv mikem karban, when you bring a karban la Hashem, wow, the Adam becomes uplifted. So we have to recognize and realize that we are this combination, and the same way that we can take that holy nefesh and drag it into the dirt, we also can take that physical body and uplift it to the highest of heights. And that's why that's an explanation that's given for a couple of things. We know by Mount Sinai, so famously we all said, Naseh v'nishma. Naseh v'nishma, we'll do it. Whatever you want us to do, we'll do. Naseh, we'll do it. V'nishma. And now we'll listen to what you have to say. Right? Whatever it is, I always say, a dear friend, a spouse says to you, can you do something for me? Right? The correct answer is not, what is it? The correct answer is yes. And then we could ask, what is it? Right? Naaseh, v'nishma, and then we'll hear. And yet we also have a teaching that we stood tachtit hahar, and the simple meaning is at the foot of a mountain, but tachtit literally means under the mountain. And the sages say, Kaf aleim har kigigit. Hashem put the mountain over our heads like this big barrel and said, Im tekablu, if you'll accept the Torah, fine. If not, sham tehei tkuvatchem. This will be your burial place. So there was this bit of coercion that went into the whole Sinai experience. And the Maharal explains, it's not literally the mountain over our heads, but it was such an overwhelming experience that it's as if it was over our heads. It's as if we were forced into it. Right? Actually, Purim connection is that the Gemara says that Kaimu v'kiblu, that after the whole Purim miracle, that's when we accepted it willingly, without needing to have that mountain over our heads. Right? That's a Purim connection. We'll see another one when we go a little bit further on. But if I already said Nasa v'nishma, then why did we need the mountain over our heads? Right? We already pledged. Yes, because there are these two aspects that we have. And we could be so holy, and we could also be so lowly. And we fluctuate. So yes, Nasa v'nishma, but at the same time, we needed to reckon, our Adam needed to be told that you have to do this. And on Yom Kippur, of all days of the year, Yom Kippur, we read the Torah twice. We read the Torah in the morning, and we read the Torah again mincha time. And the two readings on Yom Kippur cannot be more jarring. In the morning, we read about the divine service that was done in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, on Yom Kippur, and that whole lofty service that took place over there. And on Mincha, what do we read about? Don't sleep with your mother. Don't sleep with your sister. Right? Brothers and sisters, mothers and daughters, right? Bestiality. We're talking about all of the prohibited incest sexual relations that the Torah prohibits. That's what I'm there. I'm with my kittel and my talis mincha, and we've been fasting now for close to 20 hours, not more than 20 hours, and we've been in shul the whole time. And now you're telling me brothers and sisters should not engage in sexual relations? That's what we're reading about? Yeah. Because we're this Adam and we are this Nefesh. And a person could be at the highest level and a person can sink to the lowest level. And the speed of that transition in both directions. But the speed of that transition can be dizzying. How a person can fall. Well, look, we were by Mount Sinai, and then Chet HaEgel followed almost 40 days later than that. And at the same time, on the ascent, the Gemara says that if a person marries a woman with a condition, on the condition that I'm an absolute tzaddik, they're married. Wait, this guy's a tzaddik? Yeah, because he could have had thoughts of teshuva, full teshuva in that moment, and bang, yes, that person is a tzaddik. So therefore, on Yom Kippur, we have these two extremes because we have to recognize we can never be complacent with where we are. Oh, I'll never do things like that. And we could also never be miyaesh. Oh, what can I ever become? Because that transition is incredible, the potential that we have. So therefore, Adam ki yakriv korban, nefesh ki techeta. That's what we have to recognize who we are. Vayikra, let's go back to 544. Vayikra, strange text over there. Vayikra, the first word, Vav, Yud, Kuf, Resh, little aleph. In the Torah itself, that little aleph, that aleph is written small. Why is it written so small? So Rashi says, or is it the Baal HaTurim says? Rashi says. Yeah, there we go. Well, Rashi doesn't deal with it. Vayikra el Moshe. Rashi says there was a calling out to Moshe. Lashon chiba, a term of endearment. That's what the malach, the angels, they call to one another, kadosh, kadosh. But to the nevi'ei umot ha'olam, Rashi says, to the prophets of the world, nigla aleim beloshen arai v'tum. Hashem revealed himself to them in a more transient, impure manner. Shenemar, as it says, Vayikar Elokim el Bilam. When Hashem called Bilam, it doesn't say Vayikra. It says Vayikar. And the Baal HaTurim points out, I'm sure the English books, Baal HaTurim. Take a look in the English over here. 544, the very bottom there, the second column, the third paragraph from the bottom. In this verse, the summons to Moses is spelled with a miniature aleph, as if to make it appear like the word used for Bilam. The commentators find homiletical insights in this usage. Among them, in his monumental humility, Moses wished to describe God's relation to him with the same uncomplimentary word used for Bilam, without an aleph. But God instructed him to include the aleph as an expression of affection. Too humble to do so wholeheartedly, Moses wrote a small aleph. So we have over here the humility of Moshe. Now, how could Moshe be so humble? I mean, he knew that he was the number one human being on the planet, the number one Jewish person. When it was time for the Exodus, Moshe said, find someone else. He suggested Aharon. He suggested Yehoshua. Yehoshua will finish the job. Let him start the job. Aaron has been the main person. Let him be the main person. For a week, he and God are going up and back by the burning bush until he accepts that mission. When it came to Mount Sinai, he's the one who's going up to the top of the mountain. Moshe is the number one human being. How can a person, or how does a person have humility when they are the number one person on the planet?
It's part of what makes them number one.
Okay, Aaron said very beautifully, what makes the person the number one Meaning, I'm saying that God chose him. How could he be humble? You're saying God chose him because he was so humble. That's what made him the number one person. Okay, so how do you remain so humble after you've been, so your humility got you that far? How do you remain when you are the number one?
You remember your failings, maybe. You remember all those times that you fell really far short. Like he killed somebody, and he had other things going on in his
Okay.
life. So
Okay. Now I don't know. I like your point. I'm going to take issue with your example.
okay.
Okay. So you're saying that the humility is that you recognize your fallings, your past errors. Good, right? But you mentioned killing someone. Killing the Mitzri is not something that Moshe is held accountable for. On the contrary, that's something that he is praised for. This Mitzri was mercilessly beating a Jew to death, and for that there is a din called a rodef. If someone is trying to kill someone else, then you have a mitzvah to go ahead and save the life of the victim, even if it means taking the life of the person who's attempting to do that murder. But yes, I would agree with that. But I agree with your point, Esther, that it's a matter of recognizing right, those areas where you have fallen short, where you continue to fall short. Yeah. I think also the closer that a person gets to Hashem, which makes them the number one, so then as we often say, right, don't look at those who are doing less than you, right? But look at those who are doing more than you. Or in this case, I don't know if anyone's doing more than Moshe, but with his closeness to Hashem, he had the ability to perceive like no other human being was able to perceive the glory of who and what Hashem is, the perfection of who and what Hashem is. And then he looks at himself and recognizes, wow, 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 wow. The angels said, Ma enosh kitis karena, why are you going to give the Torah to humankind? Right? Now, granted that they make good decisions, but the fact that they're entertaining doing things that are wrong, right? So we just say, wow, that's great. He decided not to murder someone. Oh, what a tzaddik. Say, why was he considering that? That's how the angels look at us. And Moshe, who was up in that heavenly realm, who knew that as a basar vidam, as a person of flesh and blood, as an adam and a nefesh, that we constantly have this struggle, the very fact that he was struggling made him feel, oh, what am I? What am I? Moshe had this incredible, incredible humility. That's what he understood. That's what he focused on. Another Chafetz Chaim. So there's a teaching in Pirkei Avot that says, Kol harodef achar hakavod, anyone who runs, chases after honor. So what happens? The honor flees from him. And Kol haboreach min hakavod, anyone who runs away, flees from kavod, then the kavod, the honor, comes after him. So in Radin, which was the town in Poland where the Chafetz Chaim lived, there was a very serious Talmid Chacham, but this person ran after kavod. He ran after kavod. When a person runs after the honor, there's nothing more dishonoring than that. It's so counterproductive. I remember when I was teaching I was still living in New York, and I was teaching at the high school there, and I was the Israel guidance counselor. So once a year, one of a really nice bonus is they would fly me to Israel to check up on all the students that I had placed in different schools there, the boys and girls schools, take them out for dinner, see how they're all doing, help them out over there, and also check out new places that were opening up for that year's seniors to see where I would best direct them. I was davening at a minyan there in Jerusalem, and whoever the rabbi there was, right, after davening, he welcomed some different rabbis that were there that he noticed. And then one rabbi said, "Oh, you didn't mention my name, right? I'm Rabbi so-and-so from wherever it was." So I says, "Oh, I'd like to welcome also Rabbi so-and-so from so-and-so." And like my jaw is down. It's like, whoa, right? Is that how you think? Is that going to give you honor? Like running after the honor, it's so counterproductive. So in the town of Rodden, there was a person who wanted the honor and wasn't getting it. And he was somewhat deserving of it. He was a serious Talmid Chacham. At the same time, the people, the students, the people saw that he was running after the honor. And we tend to, when someone's running after the honor, we tend to dismiss them. So he came to the Chafetz Chaim and he said, "I don't understand, right? Why? It's not my own honor, of course. I'm sure he said it's for the honor of the Torah, right? But I know a lot of Torah. Why is there not honor being afforded to the Torah as it should be? Not that I want the honor, heaven forbid, but it's the Torah that I've learned." So the Chafetz Chaim quoted in this Mishnah, and he said, whenever it says call, all who run after. Whenever it says call, it's coming to include someone that I wouldn't otherwise have included. So when it says call harodef achar hakavod borech mimenu, whoever, all who run after kavod, the kavod will flee from them. That comes to include even someone who truly is deserving of the honor, like yourself. And then the Chafetz Chaim went on to say, and the latter half of the pasuk, I've seen that also, because it says, "Call all those who run away from the kavod, it will chase them." Meaning, even if a person is not deserving of kavod, of honor, if they run away from them, it'll come to them. And that's been my situation. Chafetz Chaim said of himself, "I'm not deserving of the honor, but because I run away from it, that's why people are giving me honor." But a question is asked on this. We say kol haboreach min hakavod. Anyone who runs away from the honor will chase him. But one second. The person's running away from honor. Why? Because he doesn't want the honor. Right? He's not running away from the honor because he learned this Mishnah and that way he'll get the honor, because that's actually running towards the honor. Someone was asked the rabbi, "I understand I run from the honor, but it's not chasing me." So he says, "Because you're looking over your shoulder. That's the problem. You can't look over your shoulder when you're running away from it. If you're running away from it in order for it to follow you." So here's a person who's running away from honor. He truly, honestly does not want the honor. So why is he being punished that the honor will chase him? If he doesn't want the honor, then that's a very lofty concept. So why should that be taken away from him? Why should he be punished? He doesn't want the honor, and yet he's getting honored. Interesting question. So I heard a very beautiful answer. A person runs away from the honor. Why is he running away from the honor? Because it's not me. It's Hashem. It's not me, it's Hashem. Hashem has given me certain intelligence. Hashem has given me a good memory. Hashem has given me the patience Yeshiva, we called it the Sitzfleisch, right? The ability to sit and sit and sit and sit and sit. Hashem has given me the opportunities, because you always have people who have that intelligence and the memory, but they haven't found that right position for themselves. They haven't found their place. So a person with humility, a person who's running away from the kavod, why is he running away from the kavod? Because he's not attributing the success to himself. He's attributing it all to Hashem. So there is this idea that honor goes to the right place. Honor goes to where it is deserved. The greatest kavod needs to go to Hashem. So if this person is attributing all of their success and ability to Hashem, then it's almost like this gravitational pull, this law of nature, that is going to attract kavod. That is going to attract this honor, because he's attributing it to Hashem, and Hashem is the one who is deserving of all honor. Now, another question is asked: if we're supposed to run away from kavod, from honor, so why did God put into us this tremendous want for honor? If it is this negative thing, so why are we almost wired towards this kavod, towards this honor? An explanation that's given is because when it comes to kavod, when it comes to honor, there's never enough honor when we are properly directing kavod, honor, to Hashem. So that's why there is this sense that there's never enough kavod, because when it's being directed properly towards Hashem, there never is enough kavod. There never is enough honor. The problem is that we then hijack it for ourselves. We misdirect it. We misappropriate it. And we want to direct it towards ourselves. But honor, in its essence, is insatiable. Because when it comes to Hashem, there is no limit to that. So therefore, Vayikra, Moshe, who was the greatest of people, who was the closest to Hashem, who was the greatest embodiment, because we always say that every mitzvah is a person, life is an opportunity for us to become more godly, and the mitzvot are a roadmap towards things that will make us more spiritual, more godly. There was no one more spiritual, more godly than Moshe, and therefore he had that epitome of godliness, and therefore he also was afforded great honor as he was running away from that honor. Vayikra el Moshe, right? But we are, as we started, we are this composite of the physical and the spiritual, each one with its tremendous power, and that gives us that tremendous potential of being this Adam ki yakriv, like Adam Harishon who changed the world. We too change the world. And just one last Purim connection. So we only see the Adam. We only see the physical of the person. We can't see the spiritual of the person. But one of the reasons why we have a custom to wear masks on Purim is that Purim, Hashem was behind the scenes. And whenever you see someone in a costume, the first thought is, who is that? Right? Who's behind the mask? And when Purim teaches us to look behind the mask. All of these seemingly, just regular government, kingdom events. The king has a party, the wife does this, the king gets jealous, the king replaces the queen with another queen, and then there's a minister, and then there's this person, and there's palace intrigue, and someone wanted to kill Achashverosh, and someone knew about it and told about it, and the king was saved, and it's in the book of Chronicles. All of these governmental kingdom events, but there is a great orchestrator, a great conductor behind this symphony of events. And we need to look behind and see that. And the masks on Purim remind us to look behind and see who's behind. And with ourselves also, we might, and other people also, we might see an Adam, but we have to look behind that mask and recognize that this is a nefesh. This is a walking chelek Elokah mimal. This is a part of Hashem above, and therefore the kavod that we must give that person, and that's what gives us this kirva. Right? We started with, why are we learning about the karbanot? We don't bring karbanot, but the karbanot teach us many, many, many fundamental lessons in terms of our own karov, our own drawing close and connecting to Hashem. Okay, we'll call it over here, my friends. Yashkoach, everybody. And the
Rabbi?
Yes.
Rabbi?
Yes,
So
Janet.
you said we shouldn't chase the kavod and everything else, but we are given a commandment to honor thy father and mother. So even acknowledging that your resources to honor your father and mother come from Hashem, as you say, but to then try and there could be small, just interactive things you do on your own, but then to maybe publicly do some honor, like give toward a building in the name of your folks, or
Absolutely.
then you're fulfilling a commandment, but you're also then chasing kavod. So there seems to be a
I'm not chasing
contradiction in
kavod.
that.
I'm giving kavod to parents.
I meant, but you're chasing it for them.
Huh? They're not
You're
chasing it. I'm giving it. I should not chase after my own kavod. But
Mm-hmm.
but giving honor to parents, they're not chasing after it. I'm not chasing after it. I'm offering it
No,
to them. And yeah, and we should be
but
giving
but then you
kavod to
you
parents.
said we
Parents
we
are creators of sorts, and we said before that the honor, the kavod that we give to Hashem is unlimited. Parents are creators of sorts, and yes, so we need to give tremendous kavod to them. Absolutely, absolutely. I don't see that as a
but
contradiction.
when you said we end up trying to, because when you said we end up trying to hijack it, so then if we do that for our parents rather than for toward Hashem, it's kind of like that one step remove that you're talking about
Except that
of not
Hashem
quite
told me to
hijacking,
do
but
that. Hashem told me to do that. So I'm giving honor to Hashem when I'm following His commands to give them honor,
okay.
right?
So it's all straight.
I believe so.
Okay,
I believe
all
so.
right. Thank you.
Okay, everybody. Shavua Tov. Good seeing you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.